in terms of where what I do, where that was born, that happened many years ago. And my father passed away when I was young, and one of the things that I learned to do when I was a young lad was to help with DIY at home. So I enjoyed, and I was fascinated by the way things were made. And so I used to find different ways of looking at the construction of things, and I became interested in that. So I used to, it's a make, do, amend, in those days. So I'm talking about like sort of 45 years ago. So it's a long time to be able to focus back on. But that's where my fascination with being able to upcycle and recycle wasn't called that then, but as it's called now. So politically, it's a good thing to upcycle and recycle things now, but it was a necessity then when I was younger. Now, the thing with my father, I remember the very first time that he said to us, as my brother, my sister, myself, he said about, he'd seen something really beautiful. And my father was very creative, and we knew that he was a brilliant artist. He was just a fabulous sketcher, and we knew that he had fascinations with nature. He painted landscapes. He was called the Cumbrian Constable back in those days, and so he came up with this thing many years ago, and he would say that he'd found something really beautiful, and he wanted us to see that. And so we came along, and we tagged along, but all my friends tagged along as well, about 10 of us all, and we walked up the mountain, and he was so excited to show us this beautiful thing that he'd found. We got there, and he stood, and we all looked around, and he says, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, what do you mean, what do you think? We don't know what you're talking about." So as kids, we were just confused. And he pointed to a tree, and he said he found the most beautiful tree that he'd ever seen in his life. And that was it. Well, we just looked at each other. We thought he was just joking. But that thing, to him, that was the beauty that he saw in that tree, didn't mean much to us at the time. But that tree became a focus point in many of his paintings. So when he saw something and it was beautiful and he was enthusiastic about that, he wanted to share that enthusiasm with all of us. Now, in that time, it meant nothing. Okay, so when he was no longer around, I found that there were things that I was fascinated about and excited about that meant nothing to anybody else. It does take me back, all those years when we were all here as kids. We'd sit on that little mound over there and all behaving ourselves, which was quite remarkable in itself. And Dad had the full command of our attention, and he was in a world of his own, and we was in his world. It was just beautiful, just wonderful, and we continued to do that then for many years to come. And even an adult, I brought my daughter up here, carried her up the mountain, nearly killed me. Walked over to another area called Tumbalam. That was a wonderful experience. So it's good. It's overgrown, it's different, it's changed, which is natural. You'd expect things to change in time. But why we came here is still here, which is lovely. Unfortunately, so is the barbed wire, but there we are. And the sheep. The sheep. Never2oldFurniture started when I was teaching, and I was talking to the students at the time, my GCSE students, and I was telling them about my ambitions, if you like, to become a sole trader. And at the time I was working part-time, and I was filling the rest of my days in the workshop. So I wanted to be a sole trader, upcycling, making furniture, recycling materials, making new things. One of the things that I wanted the students to be involved with is actually identifying a name. And So we spent a couple of lessons identifying the best name for me. And one student, won't mention his name, he said, well, you're quite old, aren't you? I said, I am, but the furniture that I'll be working with will be even older. And so it sort of morphed into an idea about never too old furniture, or never too old to begin with, but it turns out there's many companies that are called Never Too Old. So I wanted to be a bit more specific, and that's where Never Too Old Furniture came from. My crafting I was never intended to craft. This is where my friend came up to me in Sainsbury's and said, you make furniture? I said, yes. She said, oh, can you make me a box? And I said, well, if I can make furniture, I can probably make you a box. She said, well, I want you to make me a Harry Potter box. And I said, what's a Harry Potter box? I don't even know I don't even watch Harry Potter. So I did some research about Harry Potter boxes. But what I researched, what I found, I wasn't that impressed with, to be quite honest. There was nothing three-dimensional. They were just boxes. They used laser cutters and pyrography kind of stuff, so etching onto a surface. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make something which is three-dimensional. So I wanted it to be more crafting than, I didn't want to put it onto a CNC or a laser cutter, or I wanted to actually make things with my hands. And so that's how the crafting part of what I do, that's how that was born. When there was a time where I would have my boxes featured in a gallery, and I was at home, the phone rang, and the lady from the gallery said, oh, there's a lady here, she wants to talk to you about making 2 boxes for her twin sons. So I spoke to the lady and she said, oh, I want the boxes to be identical. And I said, no. And she's, well, no, that's what I want. I said, well, I don't do identical. They will be different. And she said, well, I have identical sons and that's the way I want it. I said, listen, let me make those boxes for your twin sons. So I got the details from her, said, let me make those boxes, and they will be boxes for your twins, but each twin will know very specifically which will be their box. I said, trust me, if you're not happy with what I do, then you can have the boxes for nothing. And so I said that to her. I said, and I'll call you when I'm done. So I did that. And so what I did, I designed and created one box, and the other box, it was just a mirror image. So it was the opposite of the very first box. As if you stood one box in front of a mirror, that was the other box. So each boy, each son, knew which one was their box, even though they were exactly the same, only different. There's 2 things that my father gave me, and they're priceless to me. If I went to buy them in the shop, it cost me about £1.50. You know what I mean? But you couldn't give me £10,000 for them. They are absolutely everything to me. So they mean everything. And those 2 things are a bosun's whistle, which he gave me, and I just played with it as if it was a toy. And the next thing he gave me was, and one of the reasons why this is so significant, he gave me some of his tools, and one of them was just like a whittling knife. I still got it today, and every time I use that knife, and I'm holding that knife, it's like holding his hand, and it means absolutely everything. If there was a fire and I had to clear everything out of here, the only thing I would be looking for really would be the knife, because I can't replace that. I can replace scroll saws and other saws and tenon saws and hammers. I can go and buy them again tomorrow. But that knife, I can't. It's my dad's, but it's mine now. So his hand has been on that handle, and that means absolutely everything to me. And I still got it. I don't know how old it is. It's got to be 70, 80 years old, maybe. It's an old knife, but I still use it, and that's good. There's an emotional attachment to looking at a beautiful tree, a beautiful knife, a bosun's whistle, they're all triggers that take me back to me being with Dad. I'm not with him now, but in my heart I am. We live in a throwaway society. We buy something, we love it, we like it, and then we loathe it. And rather than just do something with the materials, we throw it away. And it's really important, I think, to be able to understand that if someone says, Paul, I've got a headboard, a pine headboard, do you want it? I said, well, I don't really want a headboard, but I do want the material. So that material is going to be something different. It's not going to be a headboard anymore, but it's going to be a different product. And so I take the material in, I set it aside, and I wait for the opportunity where, something that's going to present itself, I got the material there that I can use. A lady, about 2 months ago, she came to, this is a recycling centre. She had a 3-drawer cabinet and a piece of furniture that really didn't look very good at all. She brought it in. Even the recycling centre felt that it wasn't something they could work with or something they could sell. So she took it back out to her car, and it's basically it was going to go to landfill. And I didn't want that, so I took it off her hands. Didn't cost me anything, and I set that aside and said, right, leave it with me. I'm going to do something with it, and I did. I just had bought some blue paint, midnight blue. Wanted to try it out. And so that was a perfect opportunity on a piece of furniture that no one loved anymore. I'm going to try this bit of paint out to see how that worked. And I did that. It came out really, really well. I changed the handles on it from another job I did that somebody wanted me to upgrade their oak furniture. I used their handles on that three-drawer bedroom cabinet, and that's been bought by a gentleman this week. As teaching ended, you think, well, that episode in my life is behind me, so sort of that door is closed now. But then, this door is open for me because, like one door does close, but let's make sure there's another door open for us to be able to walk through that. And where even for materials, even for products, furniture, a door may close on its life, but then someone else is there to be able to open its door to another life. And we don't need to keep throwing things away. Even if we decide not to use it as a thing anymore, we can use the materials. It could be a shelf, or it could be a box. I make boxes, theme boxes, they're unusual, but it's still using the materials that were being thrown away. So that's the important factor there. Is not so much that, this person, they've made a box. Yeah, made a box out of something that was going to get thrown away. And that's the really important thing. That material is not in landfill. It's now a product sitting in someone's house, and that's really, really important. But this is the handle. So my pins are, I only need to apply one pin. It's not about making boxes. I've made boxes from the materials, but that's what I didn't come up to do that. I come up to work with furniture, and that's an accident. That's just an accident that happened. But a lot of people enjoy what I do. I never knew I could do it until I started doing it. But that's obviously popular, but my furniture is important. That it's really important. That there, bit of wood there, it's a headboard. It's a headboard. That was my neighbour said, do you want this pine headboard? Because I can't do anything with it. He said, but I'm going to throw it, I'm going to take it to landfill. Then I said, I'll have it. Well, I cut that down then. So that has gone from being a headboard to a box, and all these pieces here, there was a bench. The wood was from a bench. So how much money did I fork out on this? Nothing. Just my time. So the materials cost nothing. All that material would have been in landfill if I just let it go, and I didn't. So that's important. That's the kind of thing that he would come up and he'd look at that. He wouldn't photograph it, he would sketch that, and that would appear in his paintings at some point. Everything that he did in his paintings is something that he saw. My father was a fabulous artist. I'm not a fabulous artist, but I can make an attempt, if you like, to be able to draw some sketches. And I know that my father was just so good, so talented at the things that he did. And I used to watch him sketch portraits, and I was fascinated by what he could do so quickly and present something which is so beautiful in a very, very short space of time. So that's the finished version of a painting that he did and he donated that to the church. That's a larger picture of an unfinished version of that. That picture then sat in a church for quite a while, and then sadly the church burned, and I think I'm not sure that the painting survived that. To that end, we've never seen that painting since, so that's very, very sad for us. In this particular example, as we can see in the background, it's a photograph of a selection of pictures that my father would have done many, many years ago. So this is my auntie, who lived in America at the time, Atlanta, Georgia. That's my sister, that's myself, and just at the backdrop there are pictures that my father would have done. But the one immediately behind would have been a picture from the location that we enjoyed on a trip yesterday. And we went to that location where some of these trees would have featured in the areas that we were walking through yesterday. So paintings like that are significant because we were enjoying what he enjoyed many, many years ago, and there's some tangible evidence there of some of the work that he did using that experience. So one of the things that is sort of similar to his experience, where his was commission work, and I have none of his paintings are hanging in my house or my family's house, which is very, very sad. And I produce some artwork myself, and that's all commission based as well. So I hold very, very little stock of some of the portraits that I've ever sketched. I got one or two pieces which I can show, but sadly I got nothing to show of my father, even though I knew that he did absolutely fabulous pieces of work. And as you grow up and get older and you find your own way in life, before you realise it, you're doing and saying the things that he used to love and do, and you think, oh well, this is all part of me, this is all part of what I do, but it isn't. It's part of what my granddad did, it's part of what my dad did, and you don't realise it, that his genes are in you, and you're doing the things and saying the things that he enjoyed when he was showing his children. So we say that things are not connected, but they are. And like 50 years on, I've left my teaching job, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing, into something that I'm not governed by a timetable, I'm not governed by a bell telling me when to start, when to stop, who to talk to, who not to talk to. I've got my workshop, making all these creations. So. I tread a different path every day. And we went for a walk today, didn't we? And did you notice that the journey that we came back on was different than the one we went out on? Did you notice that? I did that deliberately. And the reason why I did that, and I mean this sincerely, if we walked up that pathway and we walked back the same way, and we went there again, we walked up that pathway and we come back, we would see the same trees, the same views, every time we walk past there. And I wanted to come back somewhere in a different way so we could see new things. We came back a different route and saw a tree that I'd never seen before, and it was the most beautiful tree that I'd ever seen. It was just fabulous. And if we hadn't come back a different way, a different route, a different pathway, we wouldn't have seen it. And that's the reason that my work here and the things I do, I tread a different path every day. Today is what it was. Tomorrow will be different. And so will the next day. And that's what I love. Because I don't know who's going to be throwing the next piece of furniture away. I just don't know. But I know what I'll do. I'll do something with it and it'll be different and somebody will buy it off me. But it won't be in landfill.